Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mahaba, ciao, bonjour, namaste, jumbo. Bienvenidos. Hey, my name is Jedley. Welcome to Reading with Your Kids. We are coming to you from the beautiful, book-loving neighborhood of Reedville, the loveliest neighborhood in all of Boston. This is more than just a podcast. It's a movement. Our mission is to help families grow stronger, closer, and kinder through the magic of reading together. And we are absolutely thrilled that you are joining us on that journey. Help us spread the joy by sharing this podcast with the people you love. Tell your friends, teachers, school librarians, neighbors, that they can hear us on the WREB AM/FM 24/7 radio network, and they can find us on the iHeartRadio app, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Good Pods, Podcast Addict, Amazon Music, Audible, YouTube, wherever you find your favorite shows, you can find Reading with Your Kids. Really excited today, Kobe Yamada is here to celebrate his new picture book. It's called Others. Later in the show, we'll have a listen back to a conversation we had with Kate Korsh. This episode of Reading with Your Kids is brought to you by the Fred the Snake series, written by Dr. Peter Cotton. I just got back from the COSPA National Education Conference. 1,500 school leaders from across the country. And I have to tell you, one of the biggest smiles at our booth came from a little snake named Fred. We were sharing the Fred the Snake book series, and again, superintendents and educators were drawn in by the bright, colorful illustration. They'd pick up a book, start flipping through it, and you could just see it. They got it. These are the kinds of stories kids want to read. But you know what really stopped them in their tracks? When I told them that the author, Dr. Peter Cotton, was a world-renowned gastroenterologist and teacher before he began writing children's books. And suddenly it clicked. Here's someone who spent a lifetime helping people, now using the same care, the same curiosity to create stories that help kids feel brave, welcome, and excited to learn. The Fred the Snake series now includes 10 wonderful adventures, from getting mended to going to school to exploring cities and beaches with friends, and every one of them is filled with heart, humor, and connection. We loved having Dr. Peter on Reading with Your Kids, and I can tell you, educators at the COSPA conference love Fred the Snake just as much as we do. So if you're looking for stories your kids will laugh with, learn from, and want to read again and again, meet Fred the Snake. Because with Fred the Snake, the real magic happens when we choose kindness and become a friend. This episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast is brought to you by Follow the River by Ellen Cochran. What would you do if you fell from the sky into the Amazon rainforest? That's not fiction. That's the incredible story behind the book Follow the River by Ellen Cochran. On Christmas Eve 1971, 17-year-old Julianne boarded a plane with her mom in Lima, Peru. The destination was home, a research station deep in the Amazon jungle. But just 20 minutes after landing, disaster struck. Lightning hit the plane, and Julianne was thrown 2 miles through the sky into the rainforest below. When she woke up the next day, she was alone. Her collarbone was broken. Her glasses were gone. She only had one shoe, and she was surrounded by one of the most dangerous jungles on Earth. But Julianne remembered the lessons her scientist parents had taught her and began an unbelievable journey through the Amazon. For 11 days, she walked, survived, and followed the water until she found help. Follow the River is a breathtaking story of courage, resilience, and the incredible strength of the human spirit. If your family loves stories like Hatchet or I Survived, this is one adventure you won't want to miss. Discover Follow the River today, a true story that proves that sometimes the greatest survival tool is hope. Join us right now from Washington State. Our guest is here to celebrate his new picture book. It's called Others. Please welcome to the show, Kobe Yamada. Hey, Kobe, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Delighted to have you on. Interesting pieces of art behind you. You have a a smiley face football and a basketball with a crown, and it looks like a balloon dog, but I have a feeling it's not a balloon dog.
It's a sculpture of a balloon dog.
Okay. All right. Awesome. Very, very cool. My daughter's, my my daughter's dog, would love the smiley football. It wouldn't be smiling after Calvin had it for 5 minutes, but, he would love it.
Yeah, it's still smiling because it's up on the shelf. Our dogs would like to take the smile off its face too, but, we're going to keep it on the shelf for now.
So let's talk about others. Tell us all about this picture book, please.
Well, Others is a book about empathy and perspective. We wanted to kind of create, and I say we, Charles Santoso is the illustrator for the book, just a masterful illustrator. And we wanted to create a book that opened up conversations about the way we might look at people we don't know, the way we might think about them. And so we built the entire book as a conversation. And the conversation is happening with two characters over on the left-hand side of the page. And throughout the entire book, there's a big hedge in the gutter of the book. And that's, to represent a big physical barrier as well as psychological barrier. And then Charles did this wonderful illustrations of showing kind of the imagined scenes that were happening on the other side of the hedge. And so as this conversation, we really wanted to start the book off very absurd and silly, really just to represent, we don't really know a lot of the opinions sometimes that we have about things. They're not very well known about maybe the people or the things that we're talking about. And so that was the entire idea of the book, is to build it silly, to then allow the reader to, and the conversation to kind of form into places that are more meaningful and a little more sincere. And, the entire time in the book, the two characters can't see on the other side of the hedge, but the reader can. And so we thought that was just a really wonderful way to use a picture book to be able to kind of open up some conversations about things that, I think lead to more understanding, more compassion, more empathy. And, in my mind, that's something that, the world needs more of, and we can continue to, build on those kind of conversations and hopefully leading to more connection and more understanding.
I certainly agree that we need more compassion, empathy, and more understanding of each other. I think it's incredibly important. You mentioned that you and Carlos wanted to create this book. Did it start off as a collaboration between the two of you? We hear so much that, there's such distance between authors and illustrators.
So I did write the manuscript first, but I've worked with Charles on previous books. And so I definitely had him right in my head as I was writing that book. And as the book that the reader sees today, that definitely is a collaboration. That's something that Charles and I worked very, very closely with, had hours of conversations about the book and how to go about it. So, I'm a very collaborative author. I don't just write the book and send it off and not really connect with the illustrator. It's usually something that is more of a joint work, something that, I work with them. Most of my books are, I consider them all ages picture books. So it's really important to have those conversations with the illustrator to try to be able to tell the narrative story as well as the one in text, and have those kind of marriage together in a way that can be as insightful or powerful as possible.
Yeah. It's first off, I apologize to Charles. I think I referred to him as Carlos. My bad. But as you were speaking, I had like a flashback to when I was very young. I think I was 5 or 6 years old, and I was with my grandmother, and we were in a store, and the people who were running the store were Asian. I believe they were Chinese, and they were speaking to each other in Chinese. And my grandmother, who was a wonderful, loving person, very accepting, kind of took couple of kids in who didn't have homes. But she got very upset that these people were speaking in different language because she thought they're talking about me. I don't want them talking about me. And to me, I'm like, they're probably not talking. They probably don't even notice us. I don't know why you're worried about it.
Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons and one of the things we wanted to kind of open up and peel back a layer of the onion with this book is we make assumptions, and a lot of those assumptions don't really have to do with the person on the other side of the hedge or the other person, maybe the family that was speaking Chinese. It might have had to do with the way your mom felt about the situation herself, how, her own insecurities, her own fears, her own ideas about things. And I think that's one of the things that we wanted to explore in this book is that we form a lot of those ideas. We form a lot of those things about things we don't know. Another way of thinking about it is foods we haven't tried. That piece of broccoli sitting on your plate, or that oyster, or something that those different spices you don't really want to try it because it's too strange, or it's too weird, or it's not made for me. Now you can make the argument, certainly that happens with kids a lot, but adults too. But you can make the argument that we benefit from exposing ourselves to these other flavors, exposing ourselves to these other things that we might be able to try in our life. And it allows us to maybe expand our minds and really even our life experience. Travel is very much like that too, to be able to see another culture, to be able to see a different neighborhood, to be able to see a different backyard, a different way people live, a different way that they get together, how they celebrate birthdays. There's just lots of things that we do as human beings differently and yet the same. We all want to feel safe. We all want to feel loved. We all want to feel connected. And yet we don't all do it in exactly the same way. And I think that's okay. And that's in my mind, those are great places for us to learn and grow.
Yeah, absolutely. I live now by the motto of don't yuck other people's yum.
I've never heard that. And I love that.
Yes. And it's really come in handy. I first was exposed to that rule as a member of Clowns Without Borders. We had an international troupe of clowns, and we were all cooking for each other. And it was just like, hey, you don't have to try it. You just don't yuck it. Just, sit back. You want to try it? Great. And if you don't, it's okay, but you don't have to make comments about it.
Well, I actually have goosebumps there. I think that is one of the more profound little, I know it's short. I know it makes you smile. I know it's easy to roll off the tongue, but there's so much wisdom in that, that we so often, for whatever reason, really, stamp out something that's different to us before we even have a chance to see the merits of it, and also judging the merits by our own feelings and not the feelings of the people that, like you said, somebody else's yum. My wife and I, we just got back from India, and so many different flavors, so many different traditions, so many different cultures that were there. And, it was just such a lovely experience and so different, from what we experience on a day-to-day basis in our own home. And it just really gave me a giant, new appreciation for, getting to share the planet with all these amazing people.
Yeah, I love that. The idea that we're sharing the planet with all these amazing different people. What a great lesson for our kids. I have a feeling that we've talked a lot to authors over the years here on Reading with Your Kids about the fact that while the book may have been created for a kid, some of these books might be more beneficial for adults to read and listen to and get a message from. And I think Others is one of those books that's really going to challenge some of the parents as they're reading it together with their kids.
Well, when I write books, I really am mindful that I am writing for a dual audience. Because I feel like the only reason to write the book, for me anyway, and I know there's lots of authors have lots of different reasons for writing books, but the reason for me, my primary reason for writing a picture book is I want to encourage conversation and I think there's a very powerful thing to have a conversation with a young person that has a certain kind of perspective. They've been on the planet maybe a less time, but maybe more open to ideas. Maybe there's more enthusiasm. Then you've got, say, teacher, caregiver, parent that might be reading with them and that has maybe more experience, but also maybe could benefit from new perspectives and looking at something maybe in a slightly different way. I think that those kinds of dynamics lead to really great discussions, really wonderful places of learning, and honestly, really great moments of connection too. To just know another human being, to be able to, sometimes you're cuddled up in bed and you're talking about this before going to sleep. Sometimes it's maybe pulling out a book because you're having maybe the child had a difficult time at school or a difficult time with a friendship. And maybe that particular subject, that particular book could help open that up a little bit, through an environment that just feels, maybe you're just feeling a little bit overwhelmed, and that simpler message and that easier, sort of slide into the subject can lead to some really heartfelt and nice conversations. And so that's really the intent. I know my books aren't the solve for huge problems, but they're part of the conversation, and they're hopefully opening up and some little places to touch on, like a little stepping stone, as we go along the way. And, the neat thing I think is somebody reading my book as a child, and I've experienced this as an author, and coming back and telling me how much more it even meant to them as they graduated college, or they're having a conversation, with late teen or early adult problems. And I think that's really wonderful, because I think that, literacy, literature can and picture books can kind of grow with you throughout life, and they have different meanings at different points in your life.
Yeah. Hey, what are some of the ways? So it's great to have these conversations about having more empathy for folks. But I think one of the things that's really helpful is when we get out there and we meet folks from different cultures and get to know them, experience different cultures. Not everybody has the opportunity to fly to India, as you and your family just did. What kind of ways might you suggest families kind of broaden their horizons?
Great question. Well, I think that, a community, your community around you is really a microcosm of the world, right? And so, I think what you're talking about is, in what ways can we be curious? How can, and I think that alone, the orientation of embracing curiosity and being interested in others and being interested in things that are not familiar, is a great life skill. We talked about compassion, and we talked about empathy. We can talk about curiosity, and we can talk about creativity, and some of these things, to me, those are life skills. And because they're skills, they're things that we can work on. They're things that we can build. There's things that we can develop throughout our lifetime. And so, there's lots of opportunities with clubs and associations and questions and interesting conversations. They're kind of, I think, when we think about getting to know the world around us, we think about different countries, and we think about borders, and we think about these things. But we don't often think about our next door neighbor and the people down the street and what's happening in just the small circle of people that are around you in your town or your city. And so I think that there's tons of opportunities to meet and do. We touched on it, and so this would be one of the places that I would maybe say as a very practical thing, food. Mm-hmm. And going to a restaurant that you're not familiar with, and seeing what and not just going and being there as a customer, but being there as an interested person, and maybe talking to the people that are cooking the food and where they came from, and where did they get those recipes from, and what's the story behind that food. I think you'd walk away with a different perspective about your neighbors, and you'd walk away with a different perspective about just how rich the world is that's right around you.
Yeah. I love that idea of encouraging kids to be curious. I think that's such a, as you said, it's such a powerful skill. It's such a useful skill that we can give our kids. So thanks for reminding me of that. Have you always aspired to be a children's author?
No, it wasn't a lifetime goal of mine or anything like that when I was growing up. But I do love, I've gotten to work with this wonderful company, Compendium, and everything at the heart of what we do is inspiring. And so greeting cards or journals or gift books. And I wrote my first kids book, What to Do with an Idea, in 2014. And similar to the conversation we're having here today, it really connected with audience, not just kids, but adults, around the world. It's in almost 40 languages. And it really opened up the world to me to be able to see, I almost got to follow the book and travel around and see what this book meant to people. And it encouraged me to continue to write books and to continue to work within, that the craft of writing picture books. And I just feel like it's a really wonderful medium because you really need to simplify a topic, but yet you can leave it in a place that is very expansive for people to kind of make it their own.
Mm. You mentioned that the book's been translated into 40 different languages. Did you say?
Yeah.
Did the conversations change at all in those different versions?
Yeah. So that book is What Do You Do with an Idea? And one of the wonderful things that I discovered, I thought, I don't know if this is going to work in different languages. I don't know if it's going to make sense, but I soon discovered things like creativity are universal.
Yeah.
They don't belong to a certain language. They don't belong to a certain culture. The kinds of things that inspire you, the kinds of things that make you want to chase an idea, those are everywhere and with everyone in different languages and different cultures. And it's one of the most beautiful things that I've discovered as being an author is, how we are so different and how we are so the same as human beings. That it's a tremendously affirming thing to get out there and see something you created done in 40 different ways and 40 different cultures, and yet it's powerful in each one.
I'm curious, for others, what was the spark that ignited this story?
I think, to be honest, it's a little disheartening to hear a lot of conversation day after day about our separateness. Mm-hmm. And I really felt that was something that had a false premise to it. And from everything that I've known in my life, connecting with people that are different from myself culturally, physically, in every way, I benefited from that. And I have dear friends and I have people I count on and people I trust and all these things that, we would maybe not hold as a quality to someone that we would consider an other. And so, I think that having the skills to be curious and having the desire to want to connect with people that maybe aren't exactly like yourself, I think is a tremendous gift you can give yourself and actually to the world in whole. And it's something that I think we all need to work on.
Yeah. I know when I met and married my beautiful wife, whose family's originally from Puerto Rico, a lot of my friends were freaking out. They're like, dude, the cultures are so different. It's how are you going to, the language and the food and that. And I quickly found out that there wasn't a whole lot of difference. They eat rice and we eat potatoes. Other than that, it's, we're very similar.
Yeah, my dad is Japanese heritage, and my mom is Caucasian from England, France, Germany, a mix of things. So I'm a real mutt myself. And so, yeah, we get to touch base on different cultures and different things and see that through our family and our friends and things. And, I would agree. Maybe the flavors and the foods might be a little bit different, but boy, isn't it wonderful to have that variety. But the people, love is love, and connection and feeling like you belong, and being part of something. All those things, we need those things. And there's not a certain kind of person that needs them. We all need them.
Amen. Absolutely. Hey, can you give us a preview of what might be coming next from your imagination?
Yeah, we have a book, After Others, coming out in early summer, titled Where Do Possibilities Live?
I'd like to offer you an invitation to come back and celebrate that book in the summertime.
Well, I've had a great time. I'd really like that. Thank you.
Let's tell everybody where they can go to find out more about others and find out more about you.
Well, we can, the Others is being published by 10 Speed Young Readers, and they can also go to penguinrandom.com to find information on where to buy. But in all your known retailers, independents to the big ones, it should be available.
Awesome. We've had a great time speaking to the author of Others. This is a great new picture book from our guest, Kobe Yamada. Hey, Kobe, thanks for being on Reading with Your Kids.
Thank you.
Hey, this episode of Reading with Your Kids is brought to you by AspireDrinks.com. Hey, I have a quick question for you. Have you ever wanted a little extra energy, but not the kind that makes your heart race or leaves you crashing an hour later? Well, that's exactly why I want to tell you about Aspire Drinks. You'll find them at AspireDrinks.com. Aspire calls itself a healthy energy drink, and honestly, that description really fits. Instead of loading you up with sugar or extreme caffeine, Aspire delivers a gentle, steady boost with 80 milligrams of natural caffeine from green tea and guarana. That's about half the caffeine of most energy drinks, enough to help you stay focused without the jitters or the crash. It's also zero sugar, 0 calories, and 0 artificial additives, which makes it a great choice for parents, teachers, and anyone trying to make healthier choices while still getting things done. And get this, it actually tastes great, light, crisp, and lightly sparkling, with flavors like sweet cherry, raspberry acai, mango lemonade, that's what I love. No heavy aftertaste and easy on the stomach. Aspire is packed with B and C vitamins, biotin, and ginger. And it's vegan, gluten-free, keto-friendly, really designed for real life. And just for Reading with Your Kids listeners, you can get an exclusive discount of 20% off. That's the highest discount available when you shop at AspireDrinks.com and use our promo code READ. That's READ at AspireDrinks.com. Healthy energy done right. This episode of Reading with Your Kids is sponsored by Ramble Office. Before I tell you about Ramble Office, let me tell you about what travel used to look like for me. When I take the Reading with Your Kids studio on the road, it was like a lot. I had one box for the mixer, another case for microphones, a satchel for my laptop, cables everywhere. And I always felt like I was forgetting something. That's why Ramble Office really clicked with me. Rambo takes everything I used to juggle, tech gear, personal stuff, and puts it into one smart, great-looking unit that's designed to be a mobile office, not just luggage. Everything has a place. Everything stays protected. And when you get to where you're going, you're ready to work. Instead of digging through bags or repacking your life every time you move, Rambo keeps your setup organized and ready to deploy. Travel days stop being chaos and start being productive. It's sleek, modern, built for people whose work doesn't stop just because they're on the move. And if your job follows you, whether that's podcasting, teaching, consulting, or creating, Ramble is worth a look. Go to RambleOfficeAnywhere.com, all one word, RambleOfficeAnywhere.com. Use the promo code READ, R-E-A-D, and receive 5% off any product. It's exclusive for Reading with Your Kids listeners. Check it out today, rambleofficeanywhere.com, promo code READ. Join us right now from the beautiful city of the Angels in California. Our guest is here today to celebrate her brand new children's book. It's called Una Brahmagoop Sideways Magic. It's book number 1 in a 4-book series. Book number 1 is Newbie Fairy. Please welcome to the show, Kate Korsh. Hey, Kate, how are you?
Hey, thank you so much. That was very good. It's a little bit of a tongue twister, so you did great.
It is. Thank you very much. Only took 3 tries. So I'm happy at that. I usually don't ever need more than 2 tries, but you twisted it up for me. I'm excited for you to tell us all about this book and this series.
Yeah, and let me just say, once you fall in love with Una, which when you read the book you definitely do, then you never forget her name. This book, it was sort of, I don't know if a lot of writers feel this way, but most of my ideas come to me in the shower. And so I think because I can't look at my phone or watch TV, nobody's talking to me. And one day I just had the idea for an underwear fairy. I just thought an underwear fairy would be hilarious. And, it was partly because my kids were really into every book that ever came out that had underwear in it. Of course, there's Creepy Pair of Underwear by Aaron Reynolds, and there's One Big Pair of Underwear by Laura Gale, and then the godfather of them all, Captain Underpants. So we had all of that. If you wrote a book about underwear, we owned it. And I just thought, wow, wouldn't it be funny if there was an underwear fairy? And what I really liked about it was I felt like there weren't any underwear books that were geared a little bit more towards girls. Mm-hmm. And my daughter is super spunky, and she thinks toots and butts are hilarious. So they're not, that's not humor that's just for boys anymore, mm-hmm. And I just thought it was a great way to celebrate our bodies and everything that's natural about them, to just be silly about underwear and all that stuff. So I got to work on that, and then because, you can't think that a fairy is going to have magic that relates to underwear, and that would be on purpose. I mean, that seems nuts, right? So it had to be sort of an accident. How did she end up with underwear magic? So all of her magic, that's why her magic is sideways magic. All of her magic comes out a little sideways. So she's initially trying to protect her little cousin, who's very accident prone, and he's always falling down the stairs and, poking himself in the eye. And when she does her very first protection spell, because she's a newbie fairy, she's new at this, it comes out as a protective pair of underwear that when he wears it, if he's about to fall down, it has auto wedgie magic, and it pulls him up short and, makes him pay attention, and then he doesn't hurt himself. So once she meets her idol, who is the Tooth Fairy, she's determined to work with the Tooth Fairy. And at first the Tooth Fairy is not interested in hanging out with her at all because she's a little bit too quirky, and the Tooth Fairy works alone. But eventually the Tooth Fairy needs help protecting one of her children that she helps take their teeth, but he's losing way too many teeth. She knows he's bonking his head right and left, and she needs to protect him. So she turns to Una finally, and Una is there with the protective underwear. And once they start working together, they develop a wonderful friendship, and it's a friendship book and a silly book with magic all rolled up together.
Well, I love it. I am, as a dad who read more than his fair share of Captain Underwear books, and we've had the Underwear Dragon celebrated here on the podcast. I know that my son, and I think my daughter, would love this book, and lots and lots of fun. And it is true. It's really, underwear jokes, butt jokes, fart jokes.
Yep.
You can get in trouble. I used to sing the song. Now, my daughter's 27 right now, but when she was a kid, I wrote both my kids a song, and my daughter's song was, I love Alejandra. She has beautiful hair. I love her feet. They smell so sweet. And I love her pink underwear. And that would always get a huge laugh. But every once in a while, I would say every 20 schools I was at, there'd be some teacher in the audience saying, "Why are you talking about underwear? It's so inappropriate." Ah.
Yeah. I know that happens. I think you would be hard pressed to be offended by this book. It's very sweet. And the underwear it's very, the illustrations, I mean, when the illustrator does a wonderful job, showing like Horace looking at the waistband of his underwear, like when he finds out that his underwear is magical, he's very perturbed by that, right? And he keeps checking it, and it's just super cute and sweet and innocent. So I think we're okay.
I think so too. Well, some people just like to be annoyed and offended, and there's not a whole lot you can do about that.
I think they need a little more fairy silliness and
magic underwear. That's
yes,
right.
Yes.
So you took an interesting journey to get to this point. You were sharing with me earlier that you were a teacher and then a family therapist.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that and how it all led to you being a children's author?
Yeah. I mean, I was a teacher for 10 years for LA Unified. I taught at Vermont Elementary School near USC, if you know Los Angeles at all. And it was a great career. It fulfilled me. When I first graduated from college, it was really important. I wanted to do something that mattered. Mm-hmm. And I did some other short-term jobs, and I just didn't feel like, I got a paycheck, but it wasn't important. And when I was teaching, I always felt like what I was doing was important. So that was really special to me. But I started to feel like I wanted to make an impact on kids more one-on-one. Sometimes I would have 34 or 36 kids in my class. And when I saw a kid that was really struggling, or a child that really needed help or needed more attention, I didn't always feel like I could get them what they needed. It was harder. And so I'd always been interested in psychology. I went back to school for psychology. I got my master's. I became a marriage and family therapy intern. And so for 7 years, I was doing therapy training while also teaching during the day. And then finally I got licensed. It's really a long process to get licensed in California. I finally got my license. And at that point I had my first child. And so I left teaching. I had my first child and my practice. And then when I had my second child, I said, I think I'm going to stay home because my husband was able to hold down the fort. So, I've been, just being the boss of these two kiddos at home. And, when my son was really little, he was obsessed with garbage trucks and trash cans. I mean, on garbage day, we would just walk all day and we would count how many trash cans were in front of everybody's house. And we read every book about garbage trucks and trash cans. And we started to run low. The books got tired. We read them so many times. And so I started writing little books for him about garbage trucks and trash cans. And I really liked it. And that was when I started to think, oh, yeah, I liked writing my whole life. And I've walked away from it. And I really want to focus on this more. So I started going to conferences and taking more classes, and 10 years later, here we are.
That's
a book
wonderful. Wonderful. I love that story about walking around the neighborhood on trash day.
Oh yeah.
What a great thing. And that's basically what the podcast is all about, not walking around counting trash cans, but doing stuff with your kids. And, I launched the podcast because I know that the relationship I have now with my adult kids was built one book at a time, with them sitting on my lap when they couldn't do anything else, reading them stories. And that grew into reading, from the board books to the picture books to novels and graphic novels. And then we, started watching TV together and movies together. And now I just sent my daughter a link to this really weird indigenous Siberian fusion band that I discovered on Instagram. And I know she's going to come back going, that was the weirdest thing I ever seen in my life. But, you know, it all starts with books, and it's just beautiful.
I still read with my children, even though they're 13 and 11. We still read together, and my son, he's reading me the Keeper of the Lost City series, which he's already been through the whole thing, but he wants to read it to me. So he insists on reading to me. So I just sit back and absorb it like I'm listening to an audiobook. And then I just finished Green Glass House with my daughter. She's 11. She's the opposite. She wants me to do all the reading. So, but yeah, it's still fun even now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it is just important to continue reading with your kids as they become teenagers, as it was when they were little. There's so many advantages. You're a therapist, so you know how sneaky you can be when you're reading a book with your kid,
right.
And you know that they're not going to want to talk to you about what's going on at school, and they're never going to come home probably and say, oh, this one said this to me or that to me. But if you're reading about something that's going on in a book.
Character.
Yeah. Now it's like, oh, well, maybe, you know, Susie does that sometimes. And
Yes. All the themes that come up, you can weave into your own life.
Yeah. And now I just have to check since we have a licensed marriage and family therapist here. Is it ethical to do that, to be a sneaky parent and just, you know, kind of use that book to get that information and to have those conversations with our kids?
Not to be Machiavellian about it, but I think the end justifies the means in this case.
Right. I was Jesuit trained. I'm very comfortable with that. So,
and you could always even say afterwards, "Oh, wow, I'm really glad you told me that story. I was hoping we would talk about your life today after we read this book." Yeah. You know.
Hey, you mentioned that Una came to you in the shower.
Yes.
Now, I know as somebody, you know, I get lots of ideas, and it's before it used to be, you know, keeping a pen and pad next to the bed. Or now it's like, you know, I have the phone and I can send myself a voice note or something. Mm. In the shower, what did you do? Did you take the soap and try to write on the...
I frantically dictate into my phone when I get out of the shower.
Okay.
I just put everything in my notes app, and then it's right there for later when I want to write. Or, you know, the other time I get a lot of ideas is when I'm driving, and I'll just pull over real quick and talk into my notes app, and then I have everything. Yeah.
Yeah. Perfect. I think one of the biggest challenges for a creative is these ideas come to you from out of nowhere, and they don't always last that long. You know, you get them, and this is really great, and this is exciting. And
the worst thing is when you're having a dream, a great idea that's a dream, and you wake up, you get close to consciousness, and you think, oh, I don't want to find my phone or a pen. I'll remember it. I'll write it down in the morning. And then the next morning, oh, what was that idea? I can never remember it. You have to get up and write it just then in the night.
Absolutely. There was a story. There was this one time when I just was with my kids, and we finished the book, and I just started riffing. And I just came up with this story from I don't know where, and told them the story and had them rolling on the floor. And the next night they wanted me to talk about the story again. And I'm like, what story are you talking about? I have no idea what you're talking about. And never to this day, I still have no idea what that story was. And it's very frustrating because according to my kids, it was the best story of all.
Mm. Well, there is that theory that ideas and stories are just floating in the ether out there. So maybe someone else picked it up and made it into something.
I hope so. And yes, we'll leave it at that. You mentioned to me before we started recording that this is book 1 in what will be a 4-book series.
Yes.
Do you have an idea of where Una is going to go in the different books?
2 and 3 are finished. I'm still working on 4. I'm at the tail end of 4, but 2 and 3 are done. And I also should mention that the books, they're color themed in a very unusual way. Like the first book is pink, but it's not just a pink cover. It's different shades of pink for all the illustrations, and the text is pink. So it's pinked out. It's totally pink everywhere, every which way. And so book 2 is going to be purple. Oh. And, well, I don't know if that's supposed to be, no, the cover's out. So yeah, It's known. Book 2 is going to be purple. And then book 3 is about leprechauns. So you can guess what color book 3 is going to be.
Oh. I have my leprechaun color on right now.
But in book 2, this boy that they've helped with the magic underwear down on Earth in the human world, he accidentally sees the fairies and he's fascinated by them. And so he manages to trap Una, and then he manages to sneak up behind her when she escapes into the fairy world, and all sorts of chaos ensues. So there's a big, big boy-sized problem in fairy world.
Awesome. So. This is wonderful. We're talking about having conversations with our kids. What kind of conversations do you think we can have with our kids while we're reading Una?
Well, I mean, one of the things about Una that I think kids will appreciate and maybe they'll take away with them is she just messes up a lot. I mean, she makes a lot of mistakes, but those mistakes are what get her to the next step. Those mistakes, I mean, one of her big mistakes right in the first chapter is she tries to do magic fire torches, and she uses these skunk weeds to light the torches that her cousin gave her, and it makes this horrible smell, and the rest of the fairy world is horrified. But that's how she ends up meeting the Tooth Fairy, and she never would have met the Tooth Fairy if she hadn't made that mistake. Oh. And so the mistakes are part of the process. That's thing one, so key. And also that she doesn't give up when those mistakes happen. She just keeps on plugging away, trying to, become a more important fairy, trying to be a success in all these dreams she has. So I think that's important. There's also periodically times when she wants to fib a little bit to save face. And that definitely doesn't work out for her. And her cute little cousin Horace, he just doesn't have an unearnest bone in his body. He's just the most sweet little cuddly, straightforward guy. And he's always trying to say to her, like, hey, couldn't we just tell people the truth? And she's always trying to wiggle out of it. But eventually she will have to tell him that he's right. And he can annoy her, but she loves him. And that, you see that relationship go up and down as she gets irritated with him, but then realizes how valuable he is to her, and she apologizes to him for anything, whenever she gets overly upset. So there's a lot of relational work that's done between the characters, and there's some moral work that's done, especially by the main character.
Yeah. I love it. It sounds like a really, really fun read. And like I said, I know that my son would have loved this, and I think my daughter would have had a lot of fun with it too. And I'm just thinking how much fun I could have had reading it. I'm imagining there's some different voices, and we'd probably want to get involved and get moving and grooving and stuff. So,
oh yeah. And there's magic spells. There's rhyming magic spells. So they're really fun to read.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of cute, and there's slug characters. One of the fairies is a slug fairy. And so there's these little slugs in the margins, and they're always saying hilarious things. They have little signs that say hilarious things. So there's a lot of fun little touches in there.
What did you write the fun little things that the slugs are saying, or is that an art thing?
I wrote what they say, but Marta Altes, who's the illustrator, she has given them so much personality that it really takes it over the top.
And this sounds like it's a perfect book for third, fourth graders?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Third, fourth grade is right in the pocket.
Yeah.
7 to 10-year-olds.
Yeah.
Just before you're launching into a longer middle grade, this would be a good bridge.
Yeah. I'm curious because I created the Reading with Your Kids podcast for adults, but I hear from kids every once in a while that there are kids listening to the show. So I'm wondering if there's a kid out there who's aspiring to become an author, in addition to keeping your phone outside of the shower so you can take a voice note when you get an idea. Any tips for those young authors?
Sure. I mean, when I was that age, I did a lot of journaling, and I tried to make the way journaling became interesting to me was I didn't just record the events of the day. I would think about the most interesting thing that had happened to me that day, and then I would write it sort of like a story. I would try to make it, if it was funny when it happened, I would try to make it funny as I was writing it. And then eventually I would even start to exaggerate things in the story a little bit. So it wasn't a straightforward diary like this is my factual life, but nobody was reading it but me. So it didn't matter. I could make it as fictionalized as I wanted to. And I mean, gosh, the most fun to me is dialogue. I just think dialogue is the most fun. And as a teacher, I felt like kids would sort of struggle with dialogue a lot of the times because they were caught up in the quotation marks and the punctuation and all that business. And where do I put these quotation marks? So I would say if you're writing for yourself and you're thinking maybe you want to be a writer, have a blast with that dialogue and don't even worry about the punctuation. That can all be fixed way down the line. Mm-hmm. If you want to just go to a new line when a new person talks, that'll make it clear to you who's speaking.
Exactly. Yeah, I love that. That's great advice. Because you can always get that stuff in editing.
Yes.
Hey, we should know now where we can go to find out more about you and find out more about Una.
My website is katekorsh.com, KATEKORSH. You can get Una pretty much anywhere books are sold, Barnes & Noble, Target, Walmart, Amazon, all those good, and your independent bookstores will have it also, so.
Absolutely. And remember, if you go to that independent bookstore, we love supporting those indie bookstores. If they don't have Una on the shelf, you can just ask.
They will order it for you.
It'll be there in a day or two. No big deal.
And you tell them, you say, not only am I ordering this, but I hear it's a hot ticket. You should probably order a few more while you're doing that.
And get a plug-in for the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Say, I was listening to this great podcast called Reading with Your Kids.
That's right.
And Kate was on there, and she was awesome, and I have to read this book.
I love it.
We've had a great time speaking to the author of Una Bramugoop Sideways Magic Newbie Fairy, Book 1 in a 4-book series. Our guest has been Kate Korsh. Kate, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
That's a wrap on this episode of Reading with Your Kids. If this episode made you smile or gave you something to think about, please consider sharing a link to the show with someone you love. Write a 5-star review. And, of course, subscribe to the show wherever you find your favorite shows. If you're an author with a fantastic children's book, we'd love to hear from you. So many ways to connect with us. You can connect with us on social media. Facebook.com/readingwithyourkids. At Reading With Your Kids on Instagram. At Deadly Magic on X. Of course, if you go to our website, readingwithyourkids.com, you can click on the author's Click Here button up at the top of the page. That will tell you how you can be a guest here on the show. Being a guest, it's fun, it's easy, and it gives you the chance to tell thousands of Kidlit fans all over the world about your fantastic children's book. Want to thank the folks who made today's show so wonderful, starting with our amazing guest, Kobe Yamada. Please be sure to check out others. Really, really powerful stories. Also want to thank Kate Korsh. I want to thank my team, Chris Doherty, Jackson Sotalara. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support and love she gives me. Most of all, we want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. And as always, thank you so very much for taking the time to make the world a better place. And you do that every single time you read with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next episode of Reading with Your Kids. La 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 la. La 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 la.
It starts with a smile on a brand hope for all to see. 250 acts of kindness, watch the goodness multiply. One small spark can start a fire, lighting hearts across the sky. Share the love, let the whole world see what a little kindness can be. If we all choose love today, look how far it spreads our way. Imagine millions lending a hand across this great and hopeful land. 250 times each heart, watch a kinder world restart. 250 acts of kindness, let the goodness multiply. From every town and every school, watch compassion rise and fly.